Hey guys, coming at you today with a super simple recipe that's really versatile. I use it in a bunch of recipes, and I'm sure I'm going to have a bunch in the future that is going to use this recipe. So, I figured out a keto sweetened condensed milk. Some of you may have already known this. I did put it, I think the first video I ever put it in was my key lime mini pie video. So I'll link that up there for you, and I showed you what the color is supposed to look like and all that stuff, but I'm going to put it in this video here so that you can find it easily. So let's get started on a keto sweetened condensed milk recipe. So when I make this recipe, I always do a big batch. I found you can freeze it and thaw it in the fridge and use it just like normal. And it takes a while to make. So you might as well just make a big batch and freeze it if you have the space and the money for the ingredients. So what I do is a full quart of heavy cream to 240 grams of allulose, which is a cup and a half. So I start with a big sauce pot. The allulose is tough because if there's clumps in it, you might get a bigger reading. Usually 1 cup's about 160 grams. That's why I always weigh my ingredients. It's easier, and then I'm not using extra ingredients that I'm not accounting for. Makes it easier to do my food costs and stuff. So just that and full quart of cream. I use this for my no churn ice cream recipe. I found that if you take it a little bit further, it ends up making the ice cream a little bit harder. So if you're planning on making my no churn ice cream, don't take it too dark. If it's still nice and pale, you can use it for that, and you can use it for the key lime pie recipe. So I'm just going to put this on a medium heat and keep stirring it until it's the right consistency. And then we just add butter and vanilla at the end. I usually like to stir it until all the sweetener is dissolved. You just want this at a simmer. You don't want it at like a rolling boil. So end up, allulose caramelizes, so you don't want to burn any of the allulose on the pan. Okay, we'll be checking this back periodically. I'll show you what kind of simmer you want it at. You can see once it starts heating up, it'll get like a yellowish hue to it. I mean, it's going to start to simmer soon. It's getting warm in there. So while it's going, we're going to get the rest of our ingredients. For a big batch like this, I need a whole stick, 4 ounces, 8 tablespoons, 112 grams butter. I use salted butter, so I don't add any salt to this. If you use unsalted, I would definitely put in a pinch or 2 of salt, depending on how big of a recipe you're doing. I'm going to cut this into like little pats so that it'll melt easier in the finished product. I have heard you can do this with allulose, or with erythritol, or Monkford erythritol blend. I tried it. It completely crystallized on me. Even Highfalutin Low Carb did it in the one recipe battle he did, and it came out fine. I don't know what I did wrong every time I tried it, but it did not work. So maybe just because he used it warm, it didn't crystallize. I don't know. I like to use it at like room temperature. So like it's refrigerated now, like this is a batch I have. And it's not crystallized, obviously. But I feel like you'd have to reheat this if you used like an erythritol for it. Okay, so there's the butter, and then it's just 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Someone asked me once what kind of vanilla extract, and I always tell them the imitation isn't good for you, or, you know, if I had a choice, I would buy the pure vanilla extract because that is the best. It has the best flavor and it's not bad for you. But just with how much I use it, it's just a lot of money. So I use imitation. Maybe once I start making a profit, I'll buy the pure vanilla extract. But yep, that's ready to go whenever this is ready to go. So we're just going to keep this at a simmer. I'll show you what it looks like when it's simmering. And then the color, you need it when you add your butter and everything to it. Our sweetened condensed milk is simmering. So now that it's simmering, I'm just going to keep stirring it every once in a while, scraping the edges because the edges get caramelized. Make sure you scrape the bottom and just let it simmer. This is the kind of simmer you want it at. if you go too much higher, it could boil over. I did have that happen to me before. You definitely want to keep it at a simmer. Keep an eye on it. Always be scraping the edges so you don't burn. I've heard people do this without the allulose and just reduce the cream and then add allulose. I've never tried that though, but I like the caramely taste of the sweetened condensed milk when I make my no-churn ice cream. It's pretty delicious. Our sweetened condensed milk kind of started getting a little crazy here, so just keep an eye on it. Turn it down as needed, because you don't want it boiling over on you. You don't want it going too far either. So what you're looking for is kind of like a caramel color on this, and for it to be reduced quite a bit. And like I said, it's going to make pretty much a whole quart. Someone asked me, they're like, how do you use a quart of cream and then reduce it and you still get a quart? Well, we put in 1.5 cups of allulose, which has volume to it. So yeah, it's only, you know, some allulose, but it's going to add to the volume of this. It's not quite done yet. This here is getting pretty close. Starting to get caramely in color. I don't know if you can tell with my lighting, but it is. And make sure, I always forget where the rivets are. You need to like kind of scrape down there. You see you got like that caramely stuff. It's almost done. This is just about done here. We reduced it from about here to about there. Sometimes I do test it to see if I have reduced it enough. So if you're doing this big of a batch, you obviously want 3.5 cups because you're adding a 1/2 cup of butter, or 1/4 cup of butter, 1/2 cup of butter. Yeah, 1/2 cup of butter. Whew. I'm okay. So I'll take my quart container, dump this out, and make sure it kind of comes up to where it should be. And if it's right, I add my butter. If not, I put it back on the pot and reduce it a little bit longer. But I think we have a little bit more to go. We're almost there. Okay, it looks like this is done. So we'll get our quart container. Now, the quart containers I use are heat proof. When I do this at home, use a glass mason jar. So pour it into... Yep, it ain't done. See, that's why I do that. Needs to go a little bit longer still. Okay, we're gonna call it there. I'll look back at the older videos. I don't remember how much the 8 ounce was supposed to be reduced to, but that's the normal size batch. That's the color you want. It looks darker in person than it does on my camera. I might need to put in something bigger though to get the butter in there. We'll see how much this reduced to first, and then we'll put in something else. So it's about a quart now. I think the original was a 2-cup batch of cream, so half this. And it went to like 14 ounces or something like that. Normally I would do it right in the jar and put the butter in, but because it's obviously there's no room, I'm gonna keep it in this. But I turned the heat off. So butter and vanilla. Someone asked me why I added butter to my sweetened condensed milk. I said, it's just a recipe I found for sweetened condensed milk regular, and I made it keto. So it said butter. So that's what I did. I'm guessing you can do without it, but butter makes everything better, right? So I'm just going to continuously, well, not continuously, stir this every so often to distribute the butter as it cools, and then put it into the fridge. You can use it once it cools to room temperature for any recipe also. Now I usually pull it out to come to room temperature for a recipe. Come back to it when it's all said and done. Now the butter is just all melted in there. So as this cools, the butter is going to pool on top. If you keep stirring it as it cools, it will incorporate into the sweetened condensed milk. It's not a big deal if it doesn't though. You can also put it in the fridge and stir it occasionally and it'll be fine. This is what it'll look like all the time when you go to stir it again. But if you keep stirring it until it cools down completely to room temp, the butter will get solidified in the mixture. You can also throw it in the fridge, like I said. I'm just letting it chill because I'm down here anyways. I'm going to be stirring it every once in a while. Ta-da! Video magic. This was in the fridge, so you can see there is some chunks of butter in there. Like I said, when you make a recipe, I just pull it out and let it come to room temperature. So, I'm pulling this out now, because soon I'm going to make a delicious recipe you guys I'm sure will see later. It's almost already up to room temperature. I pulled it out a while ago. But that's what your sweetened condensed milk should look like. Nice and thick. Still a little bit cold, so it's thicker than it will be at room temperature. But use this for my hot fudge recipe, no churn ice cream, or my key lime pie. Which I might make because it's my mom's birthday and she loved my mini key lime pies. She even made them herself. She's not much of a baker, but she loved them. I hope you guys enjoyed my sweetened condensed milk recipe. Keto sweetened condensed milk recipe. I've had someone comment on my no churn ice cream. Sweetened condensed milk isn't keto. Obviously, I made a keto version. So I hope you guys enjoyed and you find a bunch of different recipes to use this for. I still have more on my list to use this for, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of recipes coming your way with my keto sweetened condensed milk as the base. So don't forget to check out my Amazon links and the blog link to the full recipe in the description box below. Thank you for subscribing. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And as always, I'll be back with more keto dessert videos. Bye guys.